hoes tripping on me, bitch.
This one for love, for mothers that's grieving. It's for that dreamer in that class that's underachieving. It's for believers whose faith is just keeping them breathing. This is regarding the either. This for all of my heathens. Happy moment, happy sprinkled through half of these tragedies. Actually, I just started embracing change. It's safe to say that growth is an uncomfortable process, and pain is a necessary investment for progress. I stress that if you ever get ill or hurt against your will, this will quit.
Welcome to the Detailed Athlete. This is your host, Daniel Carr, and today we have a super special guest with us today. She is probably the strongest woman I know, the dopest woman I know, my biggest fan, the best Mimi out there ever. Today we have my mom, Mary Carr. What's going on, Mom? How you doing?
Oh, hello, Daniel.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Wonderful.
Thank you for coming.
Well, you're welcome. Whenever the baby calls, then you know Mama comes running.
Well, you know, I do what I can. Yeah, I appreciate you coming. So we're going to jump right into it. Remember, it's just a conversation.
Okay.
Let all the nerves go out the window. But I want to start from the very beginning. Okay. Obviously, super humble beginnings. Talk a little bit about where you're from originally, and talk about growing up. Like just in childhood, as a child.
Yes. Well, you know, when you asked me to come on, of course, I had so many different scenarios going on in my head and answers to questions that I thought you might ask, but I didn't think about going back to childhood. So let me think. So I grew up in Hetzler, Georgia, a small town that's in between Augusta, probably, and Waynesboro, I would say.
Yep.
And I am the oldest of four children, two boys and two girls. And my mom and dad, they were just, you know, working class people who believe in God.
For sure. May they rest, by the way.
Yes.
Rest in peace to my grandparents.
They're very missed.
Yeah, for
very
sure.
much so.
For sure. So I want you to, you said they were working class people, obviously hard working.
Yes.
Hetzler, Georgia, for y'all that don't know, it's a very small town. Very small town. Pretty much everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
Once you start talking about Hetzler and Waynesboro.
Yes. Burke County.
Yeah, for sure. So
McBean.
Yeah. So what did your dad do for a living? My
dad, believe it or not, he started out working. If I remember correctly, he worked on a dairy farm because, you know, Hetzler is country. I always say you can be from the country, but you don't have to act like you're from the country. And so, nevertheless, but he started out working on a dairy farm. Okay. And then from there, if I'm not mistaken, he was a garbage man.
Right. Okay.
And then he started working for Boral Bricks, and that's where he was. He worked there for until he retired. I would say over 30 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. All right. Well, what about Grandma? What did Grandma do?
Well, she. I remember her working at a hotel at one point because for a while she was a stay-at-home mom. Okay. And then when she went to work, she worked for a hotel. I can't remember. Horns, I think, hotel. And of course that hotel, I think when you were coming up, I don't even think that hotel exists.
Before. Never heard of that one.
And so then from there, she worked at Murray Cookie Company for a while, I believe. Okay. And then, you know, she retired from Gracewood State School and Hospital. Okay.
Okay, so obviously super humble beginners. Like
definitely.
Working class.
Working class, I wouldn't say we had a lot of money. Yeah. But I never knew it.
For sure.
I had no idea that we didn't have money.
No, for sure. Hats off to them for making the sacrifice and making things happen, which obviously was a great example set by them for you. Sure. All of them, Uncle Terry, Uncle Junior, TT. Yes. Like, it was a great example because obviously we're going to get into it later with us. Okay. But we're going to skip a little bit down your road. You're in high school. Well, what extracurricular activity did you do? You were NJROTC.
Yes, NJROTC. Yes, and also the marching Hetzibah High Marching Rebels.
Okay.
Go Rebels!
So you're super excited about that, and that's actually dope.
I was a majorette.
Okay. So that means you was twirling the batons.
Yes, I was twirling the batons.
That's a skill.
It is a skill. Fire baton. It's a skill, and that skill actually bled over into NJROTC being on the drill team, because on the drill team you're twirling rifles and doing all types of maneuvers with those.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I can go out there and score 30 points in the game, but I can't. I'm not to say I can't, but I'm not hip to twirling the guns. And if anything that's on fire, you might as well keep me away from it. I don't want it. So that's definitely a skill in itself. I asked you to bring that up because people are going to watch this and say, "Oh, well, damn, you said that you only have athletes on the." Well, number one, we'll always make an exception for them all. Okay. Number one. Number two,
because I'm not athletic at all, and I'm unapologetically unathletic.
But in that though, it might not be athletic, but it's still a skill.
It's a skill, but I don't know if they even consider ban
they probably don't. They probably don't. But
sport.
Twirling the baton and twirling the rifle.
It is definitely a skill.
It's definitely a skill, right? And obviously sports, it takes skill. So
it takes skill.
It might not be a sport, but it's definitely a lot of skill, very much respected. So you end up, when did you have your first child?
Well, I had my first child when I was still in high school when I had my first child. Actually, I was 16.
Okay. So with that, when you were pregnant,
I was 16 when I had him, and then because December the 4th, but then December 22nd, I turned 17.
Okay. So when you found out that you were pregnant, did you think the world was over? You think your life was over, kinda?
No, not really.
So what was your initial thought?
Honestly, my initial thought was, okay, so I'm pregnant, and I'll have to tell my parents, and and I'll probably get married. Thank God that didn't happen. My mom was wonderful about saying, and I thank God at the time I didn't appreciate it. But, her being a strong woman and also a wise woman, she was like, you get married, I'll have it in null because you're underage. Yeah. And that was not the person for me. And thank God, because I met Mr. Carr.
Hold on, we're going to get to that. Don't get ahead of me, but yeah, for sure. So, obviously, well, I guess we jump right into it. You move. How did you meet Curtis Carr?
It was a blind date.
Oh, wow.
A date that I almost didn't go on because my thing was I'd already been hurt, and I just wasn't planning on, I didn't want to go on the date. For sure. And then I decided, okay, well, I may as well go. Yeah, and I'm glad I did.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think all of us are.
It was love at first sight, I would say.
For sure. And having the courage to even put yourself back out there just one more time is strength, really. Realizing that you're having a kid, that you had a kid. You were 16 when you had the kid, and I'm saying the kid, my brother, my oldest brother.
That's right, the oldest, Jamel.
Super dope dude. Shout out to you, Jamel.
AKA Yannick Filmmaker.
Oh, for sure, but I wasn't gonna throw that out yet, but okay, super dope dude.
Okay.
But that shows a lot of strength. You throwing yourself back out there, and obviously it works out. It was something that told you to go. Obviously, we kind of know what that something is, higher power that puts it on your heart. You know what? I'm gonna suck it up. I'm gonna go because there's a reason why he put you there at that time. So you meet our dad, Curtis Carr. How long was it before y'all got married?
It was 3 months.
Okay.
3 months.
When you know, you know.
When you know, you know.
For sure.
Now, let me say, young people, I'm not saying that I'm endorsing that.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, when you know, you know.
For sure.
I mean, and when it was like I had met my best friend. We had long conversation.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and so we were just like, it's easy to talk to. And at that time, he had a lot to say. Over the years, he got quieter, but I guess he said everything he needed to say at the beginning.
Yeah, you went nowhere. That's all that is. Yeah. No, and I say that, and I ask these questions because obviously, then y'all go on to have four of us.
Well, 3 more after the first one, which
right.
makes 4, and he ended up adopting Jamel.
Right, and so it's 4 of us. Y'all, we talk about the humble beginnings. Obviously, he come from humble beginnings, but that's another story that we can jump into another day whenever he's here to get on. But obviously, a lot of sacrifice.
Definitely.
A lot of working hard. A lot of faith. So let's jump into the faith a little bit.
Okay.
When did you say, you know what, this is enough? I give up. God, take control of my life. I know I made some mistakes. I know I went against your will, but you have the perfect plan for me, and I know you still love me in the midst of it. So take control of my life. When did you decide that?
Well, you know, I grew up in the church, or when I say in the church, maybe in the church house is what I should say. Let's tell it, in the church house. And so that was a thing, a must, that, you know, we were going to go to church.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some people say, you know, we were in church 2-3 times a week. It wasn't like that. No, it wasn't. But we went to church on a consistent basis. But I didn't really know the Lord.
Absolutely.
Until it was after I got married. Okay. And, you know, your grandfather was a preacher.
For sure. Rest in peace to him. Shout out to him.
Yes, yes. And so one day your dad actually was trying to convey some truth to me, some biblical truth. Okay. And I could not see it. I didn't understand it. You know, he was getting frustrated. And I'm like, okay, it ain't that serious, you know. Yeah. And I went to bed. Next morning, woke up, opened the Bible up, and I kid you not, turned to the passage of scripture that he could not find, that he was trying to convey to me. And at that moment, I'm like, wait a minute. You know, and so I would say it was at that moment that I began to, what would you say, evaluate myself, examine myself, you know, self-examination. And I realized that I wasn't saved. I knew God, I knew about God, but I didn't know God. Right. And so it was at that moment, and I would say we were married in November, and I remember it was the spring of the next year. Okay. When I gave my life to the Lord, and I haven't had a reason to think that I needed to go back out into the world.
Oh, for sure. So you give your life away, and you become maybe not right then, but you end up becoming a Sunday school teacher.
I did end up becoming a Sunday school teacher, and that's really weird because, and I said I didn't know the Lord before. I knew about him, but I didn't know him. But oddly enough, coming up, you know, before I got married, at some point I taught the little kids Sunday school. Yeah. And so it kind of like came full circle, and yes, ended up becoming a Sunday school teacher, and I taught I had the teenagers, high school kids.
Like you said, life comes full circle. There's a reason, like I said, there's a reason why these questions that I asked at the beginning, because it kind of shows that life does come full circle. The teen adolescence group, that age, is a very delicate age.
Right.
We talk about the small kids. Obviously, I got 2 small babies, and they're sponges and they're soaking everything up. That's true, but we can kind of shelter them a little bit.
Right.
We can block things for them not to see, and
Most
this, that, and the
definitely.
third. But when they become adolescents, the world's out there for them. They're not always going to be in your grasp. They're not always going to be in your reach. And I know that obviously being a Sunday school teacher, you see all types of stories that come through.
Oh, definitely.
Sunday school.
Definitely.
And talk a little bit, you don't have to go into a lot of details, but just talk about a little bit of dealing with some of the stories and dealing with some of the teen traumas that some of your students were going through, and how did your story ever impact how you were able to reach those kids? So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I would. As I said, I had the teenage kids, and I didn't always share my story. I'm not always comfortable sharing my story. It's just not something that I talk about. You know, if you know me, you know, even in your growing up, that's not just something that we talk about.
For sure. Absolutely.
You know, it's known, but I'm not real comfortable sharing it.
And that's, okay.
But, and I didn't usually share it on a regular basis. But there were times when I saw girls, you know, going astray, or even maybe it had a child, and you know, it was easy for me to relate to them.
Absolutely.
And therefore, you know, and I would take them aside sometimes and share my story.
Absolutely.
And let them know that, you know, you may have what we call aired, you know, straight away.
Yeah.
You know, but it's okay. You know, you still can, you know, just move from there, pick the pieces up and keep moving. You know, ask God, you know, for forgiveness, and then continue to, you know, to live for Him. He can use you no matter, you know, what you've done,
right? Who
you done it with, who you did it to.
Absolutely.
He can still use you. You know, your life is not over.
Absolutely, and that's so important, and that's so dope, and that shows strength, that shows growth from you as a person. It's all about progression. Like you're going to progress, evolve, and get better, and then we have to find a way to give it back, because there's a generation behind us that's going to be future leaders, and I think that you did an awesome job. When I hear the stories about your Sunday school teachings, then you become a minister.
Yes.
You were called, and you
definitely, and
you've been doing that very well. Obviously, when you get up there to preach, there's things that we've already talked about. So it's just like listening to you talk again. and
because it starts in the home.
For sure.
We have to remember that charity, the Word of God says, starts at home.
For sure.
And so if you don't live a life at home,
you may
as well, you know, sit down.
Yeah, for sure. And
you know,
and that's very, very important and very dope from you. Obviously having 4 boys, and the cliche out there is that the preacher's kids are always the worst kids.
That's what they say.
But obviously that's not true.
I don't believe it's true. I can say from experience, because your dad was a preacher's kid.
For sure.
And he was a perfect gentleman.
Yeah,
he's still a perfect gentleman. He's wonderful. Wonderful. I don't know what he was like growing up, but by the time I met him,
don't matter.
You know,
don't matter.
Right.
The pops, man.
You know, I could not ask for a better husband.
Yeah.
And then, you know, even and so let's just bring it home, you know, to our household.
Right.
I can honestly say, I mean, you know, you guys, you know, you're not perfect people. So of course you're going to go through just what anybody else goes through.
Right. Right.
And so, but I can truly say that I've never had a moment where I can say, oh, well, these are the worst kids. You know. Yeah.
And I'm going to speak from experience, obviously, from my perspective of just obviously understanding what kind of house I grew up in, the teachings that were in the house. Obviously, I'm the youngest of all the four, so kind of all the teachings trickled down. So by the time it got to me, y'all didn't really have to say too much more. Just kind of reiterate and bring it home. But it's been taught to me in a lot of different ways, a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different people in just my house.
Sure.
But I can always say that no matter what mistake I made, I never would be like, oh, well, mom's a preacher and she's going to try to condemn me and throw it all at me. And it was never like that. And dad either. I'm not taking no credit from him.
Right, definitely. Because we're a team.
But we're talking about you right now.
Right.
So in that, I will also say that you always showed us grace. And you showed us quote unquote mercy at times, and I appreciate all that for sure. There was never a time where, and I know I say it sometimes, but it's never really a time where I think that, oh, mom just gonna shun me because I made a mistake or I didn't do things according to the teachings and this, that, and third. Because I believe that you know from your own experience, your own stories, and that people make mistakes. But just because you make
some, let me say, we call them mistakes, but some of them are not mistakes. Because if I willfully do something, right, I know the consequences, but I just, willfully do it, then, I'm not on here to preach, but let's call it what it is. It's sin. And so, I have to be unapologetically who I am.
For sure.
And so, yes. So, and I think that's the problem today sometimes. We want to call it mistakes, but some of them are mistakes, And so for the lack of a better word, we'll go with mistakes.
So what I was trying to get to is that you understood that even in that you have a past.
Definitely.
So you never would necessarily beat us up. Yeah, you taught us that. We heard that a lot. But But you never beat us up and never, like you said, never just like, oh, I don't understand where that came from.
Right, or, definitely.
Why my kids, like I would never. So when it got time to teach a better way, a different way, it was more with grace and not disgrace.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't like that word disgrace because I don't think anyone is ever a disgrace. I don't know if God looks at, I guess I'd have to think about what the word disgrace really means. But I don't think God ever looks down on humanity at any time and say, oh, they're a disgrace.
Yeah.
Because God is full of mercy. God is love. God gives us grace.
For sure.
And so, I would say in raising all four of you, of course, your age gaps are huge.
Super age
from 41 to 24.
Jamel's 41?
What? Because he said he's 25. I forgot. My bad.
I could have sworn he was pushing 50 though. He's only 41. My bad, Jamel.
Okay. I didn't say that. But there's a big age gap, and so I had to treat each of you, and you're different people. So you each treated differently because you are different. So I have to meet you where you are. And so I would say to parents today with multiple kids, you have to treat each child according to that child.
Absolutely.
When the Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when they're old, they will not depart. Right. He says a child, right? And so in training up that child in the way that they should go, not the way that we think they ought to go.
Right.
And so we have to ask God to give us wisdom in how to deal with each child, because each child is different. God has a plan for each child, a different plan for each child, and we have to get in tune and raise that child according to what we see God is doing in their lives.
Absolutely. So you show a lot of strength all the time. Walk us through the day that, and I always give God his credit, because without him, like nothing happens.
That's true.
But walk us through the day that I'll forever say and forever be grateful for, the day that you saved my dad's life. Walk us through that day.
First of all, I didn't save his life.
Okay.
I'm very uncomfortable when you use that phrase, because I only did what a normal person would do.
What you did was not normal.
Yeah, it was normal. When you see your husband is struggling and you see, okay, well, there's something going on and something's not quite right. And so all I did is got him dressed. He could not dress himself. So I got him up, got him dressed, helped him out to the car, and took him to the hospital. Now the doctor said if 20 more minutes and he would have been dead. But see, I don't see that saving his life, because God saved his life. I was just an instrument that God decided to use at the time.
But that's why I say that, and that's why I started off with, I always give God
right,
credit.
Definitely.
But you think it's so normal. I just did what a normal person would do. What you did was not normal. At the time, I mean, I guess he really still not. But at the time, Dad's not a small dude.
No, he's not. And given the fact that I do, for people that don't know, I do have some health issues of my own, fibromyalgia, also arthritis. And so at that time, I was in pain 24/7 usually. Mm-hmm. And so it was difficult. But, you know, just do what you got to do.
Absolutely. And that was the day that, like I always say, that was the day that you saved my dad's life, and forever grateful for it. But what was it when did you feel any fear, concern? Obviously concern, because that's what made you.
I honestly
but did you
thought,
have any fear? What was
no, at that time I didn't have any fear. At that time I really thought that, you know, he had been diagnosed with a sinus infection probably the day before. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we thought it was. Now, mind you, at the doctor's office, there was a part of me that almost said, well, why don't you do a CAT scan? And I'm thinking to myself, where did that come from? Why would they do a CAT scan? All he has is a sinus infection. So I didn't say anything. I was quiet.
Absolutely.
But, you know, that was God prompting me.
Right.
And so I failed that test. But nonetheless, because of God's grace, that next morning, I still thought it probably was just side effects from medication that they had given him from the infection. And so I thought it was that. And, you know, I wasn't. And then when the doctor came out and, you know, did all the tests, they were like, when did he hit his head? You know, he's bleeding from his brain. And I'm like, what? He didn't hit his head. You know, I don't know what's going on. Right. And even at the hospital, I had to, as for lack of a better phrase, you know, I had to put my big girl panties on. You know, I could not. Was I fearful inside? Sure, I was. Absolutely. You know, I'm not Superwoman. I'm still human. I was fearful, but I couldn't show the fear. I had to be strong. You know, I couldn't break down because I had. You were at home, your brother were at home, and you were still young. As a matter of fact, and then as a matter of fact, you had a game that night. You remember. And my thing was just, Lord, I got to keep calm, and I don't want Daniel to know what's going on, because he's got to be able to get out there on the Friday night lights and perform. You know, I gotta man up. And so, you know, there was a time even when I started to get nervous, and I remember going into the dirty hospital bathroom. And the reason why I say dirty, because we know there's germs, you know, at a hospital. Absolutely. But I went in there and I had to just fall on my knees and ask God for strength. I cried. I got it out. Yeah. I dried my face, sucked it up, and walked out.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely. And you say what you want to, but you are Superwoman. And your strength, this is my opinion, your strength is what guides me as well. Probably never been said outwardly, but your strength really does guide me. because there's time. Obviously, I remember waking up that day. Waking up that day and uncharacteristically, all the lights are on. Y'all doors wide open. Yeah. Obviously, at that point, when I'm driving at that point, so I was getting ready to go to school, and it's like y'all doors never open, and the lights surely are never on. So I'm going through the day, not really knowing what's going on, but also not. I ain't gonna say not concerned. I was like, oh, maybe. Because Granddaddy was also sick at the time too, so it's like maybe she went to go see Granddaddy and Daddy getting ready to go to work, whatever. So I didn't think much of it until you came and you finally just told me, hey, like, come on, we're gonna go see your daddy. I'm like, first off, you never come get me like that, like not just without a warning. So go through and see him like that. Didn't really appreciate it, obviously. But you are Superwoman. So when I say your strength goes with me, you gotta think, I played in big arenas, played in big games. Obviously, leaving home to go, it was only 2.5, 3 hours away, but that's still 2.5, 3 hours of not being home, not being in a familiar place that I know. Those things are scary. Like playing your first college basketball game in a sold out crowd, or playing in the state championship in a sold out crowd in front of people that you do know. That can be a very scary place. Really? It really can.
I never saw that in you.
Because the same way that you show your strength with our dad, you said put your big girl panties on and suck it up, and you just got to make it happen. That's what I had to do. So there were times where I knew I was going to big games. It was like, you know what? I got to put my big boy drawers on.
Daniel James. You mean underwear?
Yeah, drawers.
Underwear.
and suck it up and go be strong. Why? Not only have I seen my dad do it countless times, countless times. Yes. But then in a moment like that, to see my mom do it, I have no excuse. I have no excuse. And now I have 2 children. Like I have no excuse because the example's been set for me. And the example was set for you by your parents, and then the example was set by dad's parents for him. So
my mom was a very strong woman, your grandma. For sure. And I watched how she handled things, and like you said, my dad was sick as well. For sure. And she took care of him. Yeah. And we all, we pitched in and helped out. But and then, and like you said, we can't take anything away from God.
No, not at all.
It's just, not at all. He's just, because he is our strength.
Yeah. But he shows it to us through the people that we look up to. Well, and obviously, you're my mom, number one. I'm the youngest. At one point, I spent all my time with you.
Yes, you did.
Up and down the road.
Oh, yes.
Jenkinsville.
Oh, my goodness.
Daycare at Fairview.
Yes,
you was going to work, I was going to school. We was in it together. Almost inseparable. Like
this young man, or this who was probably no more, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. He was my sidekick when we would travel the roads of the back roads of South Carolina and sometimes Georgia. And I'm not that great with, we didn't have GPS at the time. No. But he was my GPS because, and even today, you can't lose. You have a great sense of direction. Oh, yeah. So you would always say, Mama, no, it's this way. So I will always cherish those times.
Well, there's a reason why they call me Tom Tom. They given to me by my brother and my cousin. Eric, shout out to you too, Eric. That was the reason why they called me Tom Tom. But no, that was awesome. That was awesome that it was shown to me that way, because it still goes for me. I was in high school. I was a junior. I was a junior because I remember Dad didn't miss games. Too funny. No, he didn't really miss
unless
games.
He had to work.
And even then, he would try to find a way to at least see some of it.
Right.
And sure. So he didn't really miss too many games, but to go through pretty much a whole season and not see him at no games, he did show up for when I got 1,000 points, which was surprising to me. Didn't know
that was by the grace of God that he was able to be there. if you remember, I had to leave and take him back home because at that time he was still super sensitive to sound and to noise, so he could not stay. We stayed in the, I think, Snell Grove's office until it was time for you to award you, give you the award, and then we left directly after that. I think I took him home, and I think I was able to come back, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
for sure.
because TT.
I think I took him, and I think so.
Yeah.
I think I came.
So you was able to come back. But then the next game I see him at is the loudest game of the year, the state championship.
He had headphones on. He had to try and buff some of the noise, but God is good. So
for sure, and to see him walking down this, I was like, "Hey, no way! There ain't no way he just sat here through this whole game." and so that was another awesome experience. Yeah. But I just want to take this time out to say thank you for coming on. Number one,
you're welcome.
Thank you for being a super dope mom.
Well.
Thank you for all your sacrifice. Thank you for all the love, all the lessons, all the teachings. Thank you for it all. If you never ever heard me say thank you to you, which I'm pretty sure I have.
You have said thank you
multiple times.
You have.
But this is on the airways and it'll be out there forever. Thank you for everything. We greatly appreciate it. I don't know what I would do without you.
Well, Daniel James, let me say thank you for being my baby boy, our baby boy. Thank you for all of the experiences that we've had. It has been great for all, and I'm gonna thank you in advance for all the wonderful experiences that are to come, because I know that God is going to continue to do great things with you and to use you for His glory. And I want to also say that I even still miss those times of running up and down the road and just even playing on one field, you playing on the other field. Mind you, I'm working, but I still got my health issues going on, and I'm running from one field to the other. I really miss those times. I enjoyed them.
Well, you know what they say.
Maybe I'm not normal, but I really enjoyed it. I would love to do it all again.
Well, you know what they say. You're going to miss me when I'm gone. That's probably what's happening with the experience. But
because of what God was doing in your life and has allowed you through sports, the things that you've experienced, we got to experience a lot too. And so along with you. And so thank you for being that son and being, not giving us too much trouble, but being a good kid.
I did what I could do. Anything you want to leave us with?
The only thing I would like to say, just to reiterate to people, it does not matter where you came from in life, the things that you've been through. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh within us. God is able to perform a good work in you, and He will continue to perform it until you leave this earth. So it doesn't matter what you've done, the mistakes you've made. God is, what do I hear you say all the time, Daniel? I've heard you say on your other podcasts, and I'm just gonna say God is dope.
He is dope.
He's dope.
He's super dope.
He's dope.
Super dope. Well, thank you. As we always say here on The Detailed Athlete, we are trying to reach one to teach one. This is The Detailed Athlete. I am your host, Daniel Carr. This is my beautiful mother, Mary Carr, and we are out.
This was for love for mothers that's grieving. It's for that dreamer in that class that's underachieving. It's for believers whose faith is just keeping them breathing. This is a garden of Eden. This This for all of my heathens. Happy moment, happy sprinkled through half of these tragedies. Actually, I just started embracing change. It's safe to say that growth is an uncomfortable process, and pain is a necessary investment for progress. I stress that if you ever get ill or hurt against your will, this will quit with God. This is our test. Yes, this time is gonna be different. I'ma bless the world with honest quotes in every sentence and get better every moment. Just like my mama mentioned, hard times but never resentment. I stay forever relentless. Yeah. I gotta grind, I can't leave them behind. They said, boy, you the ticket, I ain't talking about fines. I know I'm on the right path, I ain't looking for signs. They say the quickest way to break through is freeing the mind. Man, my goal is perfection, but I may never reach it. It's every man for themselves, watch how you sharing secrets. No, I don't like parasites, I can't tolerate leeches. I get to work my testimony, I feel like a deacon. The truth is in the fine print, you gotta pay attention. Rule number one, never try to speak more than you listen. I know the biggest thing in life is to stay consistent. That's why I'm working on the present. I know that I'm gifted. I can't give up cause life is a challenge. I got the world on my shoulders, I'm trying to keep balance. No, I ain't never seen the world, I'm exploring my talent. My destiny is set in stone, you can say that it's mounted. I gotta get it, ain't no way around it. That's how it goes, I ain't worried about the coaches pick cause I'm already chose. And God gave me the key to every door that they done closed. I done came a long way from canned goods and pallets on the floor. Life done taught me some lessons. I don't face some rejections. I know that this is my path. No, I don't need no direction. I'm just tired of this stressing. We in need of for blessings. Sometimes I sit and look at my reflection.